Um, and and a really interesting year for the Encore Network as we have spun off from Encore. We are celebrating a 10th anniversary of a network of this idea of a group of people who care about this space, who believe in this notion that adults age 50 and over can be invaluable contributors to our communities and our society. So I want to thank all of you for being part of that, both people who've been a part of it for a very long time, and those of you who are newer, welcome to the Encore Network and welcome to the movement. So we are today going to acknowledge our legacy. We are going to hear some ideas that people have about, kind of what things look like in the Encore movement moving forward. But mostly we want to be here with all of you in a visioning session to co-create with all of you what the future, not only of the Encore Network looks like, but of the Encore movement. So again, thank you all for being here. And I'm going to turn this over now to my friend and colleague, Doug Dixon of Encore Boston, to do some acknowledgement of where we have been.
So this is our, welcome everybody. This is our origin story. And if I can get this out of the way, there we go. This is our origin story and history for those of you who weren't around back when. This all started with a group of people who were doing similar kind of work, just as we are today, who would find themselves together at conferences and would spend maybe a lunch together or a breakfast together to sort of catch up and compare notes. And every time we did that, we would say to ourselves, let's keep this going, right? Let's do more of this. But of course, everybody was fully occupied and nobody had the bandwidth. So at one of those sessions, Nancy Peterson and I said to ourselves, let's just do it and see what happens. So we put together a proposal, invited 14 of the people who had expressed interest, and they all showed up at our first meeting in February of 2011. I almost said 2021. So 10 years ago, our first meeting, and they kept coming back for bi-monthly meetings, culminating that first year in an in-person meeting after one of the conferences. So basically they, and much to our surprise, a number of others changed their travel plans to stick around to talk about how we could continue this work together. That was our first clue that we might have been onto something. Then Nancy was able to write into one of the Encore grants some money to support the network on an ongoing basis. And that's when she was able to hire Betsy Whaley, who had then just stepped down as executive director of the Transition Network as the director of network expansion. And that's when we officially joined the Encore family. And as we all know, because of Betsy's sort of superpowers of organizing and connecting, we grew to 140 members from 13 different countries. But as Encore began to sort of shift its focus to intergenerational connection.
Can you get that, babe?
It became increasingly clear that we would at some point need to sort of shift away from that focus and continue on our own. And Encore helped us make that decision about a year and a half or 2 years ago, when they basically said, we think it's time. And they encouraged us further by giving us a little pot of money that basically said, move out of the house and find your own nest. So that was the beginning of basically a year-long process of planning our exit from Encore.org. And as we know, last October 1st, we officially flew the coop and we're on our own. And now we are the movement. It's no longer just Encore, it is us. It is up to us to continue this work. And today's mission is basically to figure out, where do we go from here? Like any flock of birds any flock of migrating birds, on its annual migration. We know sort of where we want to go. What we haven't done is pick out the route that we will follow. And today we're hoping to begin to do just that. So that's a brief history. And what I'm going to do is ask Jan Hively and Helen Dennis, who are among the founding members, to say a few words about their observation of the history and where we're going from here. Jan, do you want to begin?
I sure will, and I'm here to celebrate. I don't know about you. I think I want to first of all just celebrate all of the Encore leaders who have provided the foundation for flying the coop. And that includes, of course, Mark Friedman and Jim Emmerman and Judy Goggin and Phyllis Siegel, Eunice Nichols, Marcy Alber, and Nancy Peterson, who stretched their arms wide over the last 20 years to embrace all of us who are leading fledgling networks of older adults seeking meaningful work. Right now, however, main function that I feel is that I want to celebrate our trusted leader, Doug Dixon. He exchanged notes, as he told you, with Nancy Peterson early in 2011 about what it would take to develop an Encore network. And later that year, after the Encore conference held at Cavallo Point in San Francisco, he and Nancy facilitated the Startup Circle. After retiring 20 years from human resource management, Doug provided leadership here in I live on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and of course he's from the Boston area. He provided leadership for discovering what's next that began, I think, in the late 1900s, based in his town central library. And then for our New England startup of Life Planning Network, which is now thriving national network. Since initiating the Encore Network, he has also convened the Encore Boston Network, also a thriving network of associations across public, private, and nonprofit sectors. I just want to say congratulations, Doug, and thank you, Doug, because really what you do, which is developing the infrastructure that makes it all fly in a very quiet way, but it's what you're what we need, and we need more of us here. We'll follow that kind of leadership. And thank you, Janine, for convening us today. Thanks so much. Celebration time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I didn't expect that. Helen, are you unmuted?
It helps to be unmuted, yes. So a couple of words. Well, I was in the room when it happened. And that was the beginning of the Encore Network. We had just, as Doug noted, we just finished this exceptional conference at Cavallo Lodge in Northern California. And it was though we discovered each other. We shared these fundamental values and philosophies about older adults and their values to society in the new life stage. And then it was all over. So then what would happen next? How could we keep the connections, keep the enthusiasm, and actually spread the word? Well, as Doug mentioned, if in time, a few of us pulled some chairs together and we talked. And I remember at that meeting, Betsy Worley had some really terrific ideas. I wrote her a note and I said, Encore should hire you. And fortunately they did. Well, Encore, a marketing expert told me that if something doesn't have a name, it doesn't exist. Well, Encore gave it the name, but the network formed the community to push the expansion. And it helped make the Encore philosophy, the movement, and the programs moving much closer to the mainstream. That can only occur if the believers and the doers form a strong community. And that's what the network has done. The shared values, the beliefs, the commitments, and the talents of those in the network, to me, these are the change agents of society, are redefining the realities of individuals in later life and the potential of this new life stage. And I can say I'm very proud to be part of this movement.
Helen, thank you. So I think if anyone has, whether it's a coffee cup, Jan, you look like you actually have something sparkling. If we could just take a moment and just all raise a glass to the legacy that we're inheriting. My good friend Lucio Guzman always says to be cognizant of when we are standing on the shoulders of giants, and I really feel that we are. So thank you, Jan and Helen, both of you so much for what you've done to shape this movement, and echoing your statements about Doug, who has been such a strong foundation. So cheers to us all.
Cheers.
And so having this proud legacy, we now want to talk about and really envision what our future looks like. And to do that, we're going to engage in some visioning in kind of small groups today and breakouts. But before we do that, I want us to be inspired by just some ideas that have come from network members, both some longstanding members and also some newer members. And I'm calling this, no pressure on our idea sparkers. We're calling this the idea sparker. And you are going to hear from 6 people. And I'm going to use that PBS notion, brief but spectacular ideas about how we can leverage the strengths and talents of people aged 50 and over moving forward. And so in turn, I'm going to go ahead and introduce each idea sparker in turn. And then you'll hear the idea, jot it down, because we want to spark on that when we meet in small groups. And I am going to start with a woman that I haven't formally met yet, but Marcy emailed me and said, you must meet Cynthia Barnett. And all of us know when Marcy emails you and says you must meet, that this is someone you must meet. So Cynthia, thrilled to have you here today as our first idea speaker. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, my company is called Refire, Don't Retire. And my idea is to start what I call a dreaming room experience, where retired women get together and to rekindle their forgotten dreams and create plans to make it happen.
Cynthia, I absolutely love that, and sign me up if you started. I want to be in that first room. Thank you so much. Next, I want to introduce my friend and colleague from Colorado, Karen Brown, who's been so instrumental in a lot of the policy work that we've been able to accomplish in Colorado. Karen.
Great. So in 2009 to 2011, the Department of Labor actually created something called the Older Worker Initiative. It was funding 10 different states and 10 different organizations with $10 million. The goal was to focus on nothing but helping people 50 plus find employment. My big idea is that we replicate that program again in 10 states with 10 organizations, but we imbue it with $50 million, $5 million a state.
And Karen, a percentage of that will go to the Encore Network, correct? This will be our sustainability plan, Karen. Thank you so much. Next, let me introduce Mary Cronin. Again, someone I haven't had the privilege of personally meeting yet, but whenever I look at your the workshops and things you're doing around storytelling, I'm like, I must meet this woman. So Mary, could you share with us your brief but spectacular idea? And if I can ask you to unmute yourself.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Reminder. I'm bringing my hat today actually as a business professor at Boston College and researcher on older entrepreneurs. So my big idea, my observation is that the number of founders over 50 is growing rapidly, as we know, responding to the need for work. But it's way too hard right now for first-time entrepreneurs, especially those from minority groups, to access the support and the educational services they need to succeed. So I'm suggesting that Encore Network take the lead in coordinating access to current resources and also in identifying gaps in access to high demand training and support services that we could address in collaboration with other providers and through finding funding and grants. Thanks.
Mary, I'm all in as a 68-year-old entrepreneur. I'm like, I see the need for that every day. Thank you so much. Helen, you and I were just on the last call. We seem to show up everywhere. Helen has always had, to me, some of the most interesting ideas about leveraging strengths of older workers and how we get companies to listen. So no pressure, Helen. Share with us your brief but spectacular idea.
So it has nothing to do with anything that you just mentioned. So this, I have two, but I'm only going to mention one because I was afraid it would be a duplicate. I think it's time to have an elder march across countries. I think we need to join forces, and just like with Black Lives Matter and Pride Week, we need to create that kind of a movement, and we need to start perhaps locally, but we need to coordinate it so that it happens on the same day in various jurisdictions. What do you think? Nothing to do with work.
Helen, you know from being on that last call with me with the old school movement builders how much I love that idea. I think community organizing is absolutely something all of us need to do. So I'm in. I'm going to be spending a lot of time going to Cynthia's dream workshops and then marching with you. Let's go. Julia, I know you've contributed so much to the Encore movement, the Encore Network, and bringing us always the international perspective on membership. Let's hear your brief but spectacular idea.
Okay, thanks, Janine. Well, Encore Network has a best friends relationship with Encore.org, and I'm a senior fellow with Encore.org. Let's support the Encore.org's co-generate movement of bringing older and younger people working together for a better world. Let's showcase their 15 generation to generation innovation fellows and show our network their videos. There's 15 videos. It's going to spark, I think, some great connections. That's my suggestion.
Julia, fabulous. And having been part of that event 2 days ago, and some of the videos literally made me cry. If you would go ahead and they were amazing. Julia, can we ask you to put a link to where people might be able to access those videos?
Yes, I will. I think if we could then, through our newsletters, every newsletter, showcase 2 or 3, we start co-generating together.
You bet. And I just love that term, co-generate, because I'm actually going to appropriate that when we do our visioning, so that we are both co-creating and co-generating. Last but not least, my colleague Chris Stadler, who has contributed again so much, not only to our thinking in workforce development, Encore workforce development, but who is also on the Encore Network fundraising committee. And you know how hard it is to get people to agree to be on the fundraising committee. So Chris, let's hear your brief but spectacular idea.
Thanks, Janine. And Julia, I'm going to say thank you because you introduced a word that's part of my idea, which is showcasing. I think one of the things that's hardest for people to really grasp about the Encore movement, particularly if they're new to it or the thought of it, is the vision in action. So I'm proposing that we create a showcase called Encore Network via Vision in Action, where we showcase organizations and or individuals who are either currently running a program or have an initiative in pilot mode that they would like to launch that features one of the pillars, one of the foundational pillars of our vision. So creating an engaged and equitable community, stimulating lifelong learning, or inspiring action with the use of Encore talent. So that's kind of the admission or the first entrance requirement, that you are going to launch this with Encore talent because we know we're out there and we want to be used in meaningful ways that transform our lives at this second stage.
Fabulous, Christine. I love this. So now we've been sparked, hopefully, by some of these amazing ideas. And now what we're going to do is want to hear from you. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen and give a bit of instructions. And I'm going to ask Keely to go ahead and paste a link to a Jamboard in the chat so it appears at the bottom of the chat. Here's what is going to happen. Sorry, we are going to try that one more time. Keely, if I can ask you to put a link in the chat.
It appears to be there, I think.
It's in.
Okay, there I've got, okay. So I'm going to open this up, and now I am going to share screen. And what each of you are going to want to do is also click that open once you get into a breakout room. The way it's going to work is this. In a moment, Keely and Susan are going to organize us into breakout rooms, and there will be approximately 3 to 4 people per breakout room. What you're going to do is connect with each other. So just brief introductions, not all the elevator speech, brief introductions. And what you're going to do is kind of share some of your ideas. And you're going to be answering these questions. Question number 1 is really visioning about what the Encore movement will be in 5 years. So when you think about it, in 5 years, how have we built the movement? What is greater as a result of all of us coming together and the Encore Network being in place? And it may be, if I want to riff on some of those ideas, maybe we have secured that $50 million that Karen Brown talked about. And as a result, we've been able to ramp up Encore programs in a lot more states than they currently exist. And not only that, those Encore programs are fully funded. In 5 years, then this is getting a little bit more narrow in your visioning. In 5 years, the Encore Network will be, so we're moving from the movement to actually the network itself. Is it growth in the number of members? Is it in what members are doing? Is it that the Encore Network is actively engaged in co-generating, et cetera? So how do you do this? You're going to have a conversation among the 4 of you. And then what you're going to do is identify some of the shared interests. So, or shared ideas. What are the ones that you feel most powerfully about? And if you haven't used Jamboard before, what you're going to do is go to this side right here. You're going to click on a sticky note. And you're going to write what it is. So I am going, because you can tell I really, really like Karen's idea. We've been talking about it for a while. It might be the Encore movement will have secured sufficient funding that there are Encore programs anywhere someone wants to access them. That might be an element. And then you just click save. You can also, if you want, you can change colors. So you can make them yellow, green, blue. I'm going to make this one pink. And what will happen is it will simply appear, and you can kind of move it around. You can make it a little bit larger, etc. But basically what you're doing, you're having a conversation. You are jointly coming up with some ideas. You create a Post-it and you put the Post-it on the Jamboard. You can do the same thing. And if you run out of space, you can simply click on this little arrow and create new frames. Questions about that? Are we ready? Yes.
Yeah, I think people need to click on the link before they go in the breakout room.
They do need to click on the link before they go to the breakout room.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up. So if everybody would click on that so that you now are seeing what I'm seeing, which is if you click on the link and up on your computer, it should look exactly like you're seeing on the screen. You're on the page. In 5 years, the Encore movement will, and right now it has one sticky on it. Okay. So
and are there only those 2 questions?
There are only those 2 questions. There are only those 2 questions, but you can add any other thoughts. This is basically for you to have conversations and come up with, and through those conversations, basically come up with the ideas that you're interested in. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to have literally only about 15 minutes in the breakout room. Then you'll come back. We will not be reporting out, but we will be looking at this montage of basically the Jamboard with a bunch of sticky notes on it. And I may highlight a few things. This will continue to be live and it will be sent out to everybody. So as you have additional ideas, you can continue, and the Encore Network Leadership Council will be taking these ideas and kind of melding them into an overall strategic plan. So with that, Keely, can I, yes, one more question?
Yes, the link, is this along the side or the top?
It's in the chat.
Oh,
If you go to the bottom of the chat, you should be able to click on that link.
okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, does everybody have that?
Yes.
All right, Keely and Susan, can I ask you to put us into breakout rooms?
Yep, I'm doing it now.
Thank you.
I'll pull you out in 15 minutes.
$50 and plus, that the Encore idea will have been fully mainstreamed. And as a result of that, we will have much broader reach and impact. So thank you for helping us with this visioning. Stay tuned. This is going to be an ongoing process. We so appreciate your involvement in all of this, because basically the Encore movement is us. One of my favorite sayings is, we are the leaders we've been waiting for. There's not somebody else who's going to come out and tell us, here's what you must do. It's us deciding collectively what we're going to do together. So really appreciate your participation in all of this. So with this, I'm going to stop the share. Again, you will have the continued ability to go ahead and go to this link at any time. We'll, in the follow-up email, we'll go ahead and send you the link. So if you want to add ideas, come up with new ideas, feel free to do that. But now we want to specifically talk about what are some of the other anniversary efforts that we will be doing in the future to celebrate that this Encore movement has been around for 10 years. And with that, I'm going to turn the stage over to my friend and colleague, Noreen Wilhelm from the Dayton Foundation, to talk about an effort that came out of the Encore Network Fundraising Committee. So Noreen, can I hand it over to you?
Absolutely. So we wanted to figure out a way to do an initiative that had multiple ends. We need money. We need to raise money for the Encore Network to operate. But we also want to recognize people who have led this organization, and the people in our own communities who are in their own way champions for those of us in the Encore space. And so in September, we're going to be launching it is a fundraising initiative, but Encore Champions, an opportunity for all of our members and non-members to identify folks who have been champions of older adults, tell us a little bit about them, make a small or large contribution to the Encore Network, and we will celebrate the work that we're doing locally and nationally for older adults. And so stay tuned. You're going to hear a lot more about the Encore Champions.
And before we transition to the next part of our program, does anybody have questions for Noreen about Encore Champions? All right, it looks like we're good. So now, Remus, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know that the program committee has worked really, really hard to come up with what I consider an amazing program for September in honor, again, of our 10th anniversary. And there are also a lot of ways for Encore Network members to become involved. So Remus, if you could lay that out for us.
Sure. Thanks, Janine. And great. This has been a great workshop. I've enjoyed it. And so we're excited. The Encore Network's excited to be presenting a very special webinar presentation on September 21st at 12 noon Eastern. You're going to all be getting more information about it. But we have the good fortune of having speaker and author Ashton Applewhite. She's one of probably the nation's best speakers on the topic of ageism. She's the author of This Chair Rocks, Manifesto Against Ageism. And Dr. Connie Zweig, best-selling author of The Inner Work of Aging and a number of other books that you might all be familiar with. And so they're going to be doing a presentation called Ageism from the Inside Out and the Outside In. And they actually recruited Harry Rick Moody, who many of you probably know. He's an author, a lecturer, a renowned speaker on gerontology and ageism. He'll be moderating the presentation. And what's really exciting is the Encore Network's not only going to be making this presentation available, but they're going to be working with the Encore Network organizations to co-sponsor it with the Encore Network so that they can promote it to their own subscribers, own members, own participants. So there'll be more information coming out in the next couple of weeks, and invitations to organizations to co-brand and co-sponsor it and promote it to their own members. And everyone on this call will be hearing more about that over the next month or so.
Remus, thank you so much. I personally am really, really excited about this event because I also think it shows the power of the network. Individually, most of us could not probably have Ashton Applewhite come out and be available to our members. So to be able to have those, our constituents and those that we're involved with, to me just is a great example of the benefits of belonging to the network. So with that, before I do the wrap up, I would just like those of you who are currently on the Leadership Council, I need to acknowledge the people who are here. And if you would kind of wave your hand or do something, this was a big slog to transfer away from Encore.org to kind of figure out how do we come together as a network? How do we keep membership going? How to have really high quality programs, how to stay connected, how to recruit new members. So basically this all volunteer Leadership Council really put this together. So if you could wave your hand, I'm going to look at each screen so I can see you. I want to make sure. So I'm seeing Noreen, Bevan, Doug, Susan, Remus. I'm clicking on the, I don't know if any of you are on my next screen. I just want to make sure that we're acknowledging the people who have worked so hard to make this together. The network works and exists because all of you. Network is basically, you know, a group of people who agree to step forward together. And I am so appreciative of all of you agreeing to step forward together to put together this big idea that as we age, we can contribute and help solve some of society's most pressing issues. So now we're going to do a toast to the future. You heard earlier, Jan and Helen toast the really, really strong legacy that we have. And now we are going to ask a newer member, Cynthia Barnett, to lead us in a toast to our future. So Cynthia, can I ask you to come on? And maybe can someone, Keely, can you unmute Cynthia? And also Keely is hiding behind the Encore Network logo, but for those of you who have not yet met Keely Thompson, she is the miracle worker that the Leadership Council recruited to really kind of coordinate all of the massive efforts going on. And if we could just all applaud Keely for a moment. We are so grateful that you are here. And I'm very grateful that she is in my time zone of Colorado. So anyway, Keely, Cynthia, go ahead. Let's lead us in a toast to the future.
Okay, a toast to an amazing future in the Encore Network.
Raise your glasses, everyone. Yay. Thank you all so much for being part of the network. The network is only as strong as all of us. If you are not yet a member, please consider joining. We are grateful for all of those that you are. There is a lot more to come, and it's going to be inspired by all of the amazing things that you put on our Jamboard, on those stickies. You will see those again, and so I'm grateful. And with that, I am going to be my French Canadian self and not say adieu, but au revoir until we see you again. Thank you all so much.
Bye, everybody.
Everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Janine.
Thank you. It was a great session. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye.
Hey, Keely,
Yes, I'm trying to capture everything in the chat. Yes.
this is Clint.
Hi, Glenn.
Good to see you again. The question of how to screen people, or if they come through Facebook, where do we send them? To you?
Yeah, go ahead and send them to me for right now. I have to get access to the Facebook and then I'll,
Okay, so that'll be our MO?
yeah.
Okay, great. That was my only question. So I get a few over the transom and it's really random. I don't know why. But you'll take care of that.
Well, yeah, and I think in the meantime, you could send it to Janine because she's still a moderator for that, Clint, until Keely gets up and running.
Perfect. Thanks, Bevan.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
that's even better.
I'll get into it in the next week or two. I just haven't.
Yeah, no,
I just
it's,
don't
yeah.
want to be doing something wrong, that's all.
No,
So,
you're good.
okay, great,
Good job, Keely.
great.
A lot of moving parts today.
Yeah, that was good, huh? How
Yeah,
are you, Bevan?
you did. Yay, you did good.
We're getting
All
it,
right.
right?
Seamlessly, no
All right.
glitches.
Take
That
care.
was great.
It was a good session. Bye.